Namaste and Hari Om everyone, and welcome back to the class on Mundaka Upanishad. We are doing the first chapter, second section. We have finished 3 verses and 3 verses. We finished 3 verses. We'll continue today with the rest of the verses. So, starting with the invocation first. ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवांसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So, the topic of the first chapter has been based on Shaunaka's question, what is that knowledge with which one can know everything? So, the answer was seek Paravidya, though both are to be known, Aparavidya and Paravidya. What was Aparavidya? The knowledge given in the Vedas and Vedangas, Upavedas, all of it falls under Aparavidya. It is also to be known. And Paravidya is to do with Brahman as Aksharam, Avyayam, etc. Know that to be yourself. Knowing this as yourself is Paravidya. Chapter 2 started first by glorifying Aparavidya because second section started with glorifying Aparavidya because first section said Aparavidya is also to be known. So the second section, he started by saying that the mantras that are given in the Vedas in the first part, or the mantras that are related to karma, are all valid and they have been seen in operation, is how I would say it. Just as we see gravity in operation, the rishis have seen these mantras in operation. So they have knowledge of that mantras, which bring about the effect, the result that the mantras are intended for, the karmas are intended for. So a large part of Vedas is focused on educating or showing a human being how they can conduct their life while fulfilling their desire, but at the same time also pursuing the superiormost Paravidya. So Veda spends a lot of section to convey that karmas are relevant. Why they are relevant is Vedas give knowledge not just of what is drishyam, what is in front of us. In fact, Veda doesn't give knowledge of it. It's an incidental part of knowledge if one gets. The entirety of Ved is it's a is your own being, your presence, and how life shapes itself based on your own self. I'll repeat this. The vision of the Vedas is not easily comprehensible by most. The vision of the Vedas is it is not seeing a lifetime. It is not seeing the journey from birth to death in one life, which we all can see ourselves. So that doesn't become the topic of Vedas. What we can see ourselves will not be the topic of Vedas. From birth to death, how life shapes itself, how you choose your things, how you don't choose, the flaws, the strengths, the directions one takes, the commitments one makes, the decisions one takes, the values one holds. There are a lot of such things that one sees around and also learns. Just one lifetime is not the topic of Vedas. The indweller finding himself in this life, that indweller is the topic of the Vedas, who finds himself with a sharira and a life now. But if this indweller was to seek Veda and Vedic knowledge for the sake of only how am I going to conduct this life? How do I become more peaceful now? How do I get more wealth, or how do I fulfill myself? All that taken. If it is in this lifetime alone is the topic of the person, then we are missing the point. The first grasp in the Vedic view, why Upanishad makes so much sense to a student, will be when will Vedanta make sense to anybody will be when we are able to appreciate Vedas and the Vedic knowledge in its entirety. What is it addressing? Whom is it addressing? When we see that it addresses the indweller in entirety, means it is talking about the one who incidentally finds himself in this life and almost helplessly has a birth, has no reason, doesn't know how it got a birth, doesn't know how long it is going to stay. We don't know when we are dying. We know death is certain, but how will we die? We do not know. How is the body going to be afflicted? Is there a early death? Is there a long life death? Will you die alone? Will you die in company? Will you die? Where will you die? Here, there, blah, 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 blah. Too many things. Will I have enough to take? Nothing is actually certain. But still, that idea of the indweller who's not able to visualize or see himself independent of the form, knowing that there is a death to the body, but still cannot appreciate the indweller and what is the nature of this indweller. What happens to the indweller is the topic that Veda addresses even in Karma Kand. even when the majority of the portion is talking about karma of the Vedas, Veda is addressing the indweller and the journey that this indweller stays in, keeps, remains. And this chapter section mantra says, second section, first mantra says that whatever in this life you are taking knowledge of in sense of Vedic knowledge, in the terms of what are the karmas to be done, not to be done, if you're a abider of Vedas, then Vedas have advised in this life, do your karma. The karma, which is not brushing the teeth, cooking for yourself, getting vegetables, going to work 9 to 9, sitting on a computer, working accounts, doing. This is not the karma it's talking about. That is for Sharir Yatra. That karma is not addressed in Vedas. Whatever you do for Sharir Yatra, that is not the topic of Vedas. I am going to emphasize a lot on this because unless and until the topic of karma is clear, vairagyam from karma is partial sometimes because it's klesh, because it's difficult. So you do tend to develop disinterest in karma because it's such a troublesome involvement. But yet there is no independence from karma. One gives up a cycle to pick up another cycle. So Vedas, when they address karma, first clarity is that what karma are they talking about? For many, many years, for many times, just to make people understand today, Vedic karmas have gone. So, how do you justify this knowledge to today's world? To people who have just stopped doing, it's no longer a part of our society, these karmas that Vedas talked of. So, then how do you understand Vedas? I'm sorry, how do you understand karmas? Does it apply to all these actions? Going to work, and therefore, then the whole philosophy starts to say, okay, give at least a higher ideal, do Ishwararpan, do Karam Yoga, at least to this much, correct. But when we are talking about Vedic knowledge, when this portion says, this mantra says, Tat Etat Satyam, those mantras that have been seen in operation as pertaining to karma, they are true. They are true. They work. They work. They generate the result that they're promising in the beginning of the karma to the one who's interested in the result, or whatever it is talking as phalam. It is tadetat satyam. This karma that Veda talks about is fundamentally according to Varna and Ashrama, because Veda divides the karmas according to Varna and Ashrama. It is not dividing according to hierarchy of class. There is nothing like a hierarchy of class in Vedic vision. Vedas is talking everyone is one. There is only one. Where will it talk of inequality, or where will it talk of division of class? It's absolutely meaningless to even not understand it in the right sense that Vedas would ever give a direction to do karma based on your social structure. It's not possible. It cannot be. Common sense should have told us long ago, and it should be emphasized in the society that the class is not what Vedas had divided. The class is an interpretation, wrong interpretation of what the Vedas is saying. Vedas is Vedas is only giving direction according to your Varna and Ashrama to specify what is your obligatory, what is your karma to be done. If you are in this position, if you are in this class of life, class as in, I'm sorry, if you're in this stage of life, if you are have this facility to life, do this karma. Those karmas were more for grahastha more kya, they were centered around grahastha. This pre-grahastha stage, brahmacharya doesn't have karmas to do. He has only bhiksha and study and seva and things like that, those kind of values. Karma, if even this much more clarity we have to our understanding, it'll be worth everything, because it opens up entirely what is called a karta. Karma is, I'm repeating myself because it's absurd to say karma is laukik karma that is mentioned in the Vedas. It is not to say you just generate a higher goal, unselfish goal, and dedicate your actions to unselfish goal. That cannot be what Veda is talking about. It is talking about specific actions, those actions that are supported by their specific mantras, that have their procedure to do the action, that are expected that the one who takes on that action will follow the niyamas or will follow the procedure which is set in the performance of the karma, and that alone can be called as karma which completes the procedure. An action completed can be then called karma. Just doing an action and not completing it or not taking it to its end cannot be called a karma, because it is not complete yet. It cannot, of course, give any result because the karma didn't perform itself. That karma that Veda talks about, in the first few mantras, it is saying, started by the Grahastha ashram centers around the Shruti karma of Agnihotra karma. And Agnihotra karma is twice a day, sunrise and sunset time. It is mandated, do your karma, do your Agnihotram. For that Agnihotra to be completed also, it's actually a lot of satellite karmas along with it, which we saw uh, on the new moon day, on the Amavasya day, Chaturmasya day, Vaishvadeva karma. Vaishvadeva karma is very specific to the Panch Mahayajnas also. There is a whole system of organized thought around karma. It's an organization in itself, which includes which devata to give the offering, which mantra to invoke at that time for that devata. And all this Agnihotra done twice, 2 oblations in the morning, 2 in the evening, supported by the new moon and the no moon days, Purnamasha. Then with the harvest time ritual, the third mantra said that if Agnihotra is done, but the rest of the secondary karmas are not done, then the result is deficient. It will not come. It fails to be called a karma. Nitya karma meant ever, the minute you get married, there is a certain time they give, it's not rigid in that sense. And I'll pause here and remind everyone, when Veda says do this, when you take it upon yourself to choose to do this, then only Veda starts by saying, do this in this manner. Before that, Veda, Vedic literature, Vedic Shastra acknowledges that every person has a free will. You can choose to do, you can choose not to do. You can choose to leave it up completely, abandon it, not take it into consideration. You can choose not to believe it. You can choose to alter it. You can do anything with it. But if you choose to follow it, then the whole system of organization falls into place, because now you've decided to abide it. You've decided to follow it. And to follow it, then Veda starts giving education. Why it is necessary to follow it as is. Thereafterwards, do not use your will. Thereafterwards, don't make it a choice. Thereafterwards, do not make it a partial thing as I'll do only convenience. Do not make it a convenience after that, because you are tampering with a certain effectiveness of what will happen. It is just as I'm saying again, I'm repeating myself because there's no this parallel example I think which can fit better. I don't see gravity, but I see its operative. Now, I can choose. We heard someone just now recently, somebody said they were a British citizen, young boy, for the sake of his social postings, has a huge following and is known to go to areas which have risks involved. So, just before what has happened to Afghanistan now, just before that, he had chosen it's a risky thing. He went there. Now he feels he's lost there. He doesn't know how to come back. And very interesting. You have chosen to take the risk. Now, you know there is a law operational. Right or wrong is not there. It is no comment on that at all. Gravity is a law. It will work like this, come what may. It will work under conditions and rules. Your will not alter the speed of gravity. Your will has no effect on it. How much is your will effective in gravity? Only up to the point at which you have initiated it. That means if I can initiate gravity to say, let me go up, let me go down, we've already covered that to some extent. Let me go up, let me go down, or let me slide. If I take a slide down, just before I'm ready to take a slide down, I know the gravity will take me down. Now, my choice is only before that. I have taken the steps to go up to the slide, and then I still can come down. Of course, gravity will work, but I can also go down the slide. And once I decide to go down, it is gravity's hands that I am completely dependent on. Get the point that is being said. What is being said? That karma is something like that. What has become very popular in the world and is actually very ambiguous and I would say is highly confusing to a thinking person, because it just leaves more loose-ended thoughts than a complete picture. By just using law of karma, law of karma, law of karma, constantly we are saying, we all of us are saying that law of karma, law of karma. When we go on saying, you will go on saying, what was I saying? What was my last sentence? Go on saying what? I'm sorry, I have lost the train. We go on saying what? What was the sentence before that? Let me just redo the whole thing. What is the law of karma? But what is that law? What was it talking about? I'm completely. I'll just rephrase what's possible. Yeah, gravity. So whatever is the people keep talking about law of karma. We all say that law of karma works. So that point was covered, finished. So wherever we are talking about karma, That karma means, it's a very beautiful build-up. I think I'll end the class. I'm not able to connect any further now. So what really is karma spoken of in Vedas? When it says do your karma, it says do your nitya karma. What is to be done according to your varna and ashram. But I'm repeating myself for if the thought comes back. But it has given the choice. Do it or don't do it. It's your choice. But if you choose to do it, then don't alter. You have to go through the discipline of the karma. For the karma to be effective, the mantra is actually extremely dense, I would say, has a lot of gravity to it in a different meaning, is so deep. Because to understand what is true, superficially we can pass on. Definitely, it's ultimately the Upanishad doesn't want us to become karmis. So definitely it is going to discard the whole thing that it is saying. But if you are not going to be able, if we do not understand how, if we do not understand what is the karma that is mentioned, really speaking, it is a law. Correct, it is a law. A law just as much as a gravity is a law, which means if you are following as has been shown in the Shastra, in the Vedas, the result is definite. There is no alteration to its course. If the karma is done as is said. So the example given here was Agnihotra, etc. And all this other karmas done. If someone, and mark the words, if someone does it, it is to be done your entire life till you die, from the time you are married till the end of your death, till the end of, along with all these karmas, which is daily, twice a day, along with one in the afternoon sometimes, plus the extra karmas, all of it. Ideally speaking, if one does that, what is the gain? The result is Brahmaloka Prapti, provided those karmas are also done with upasanas, mental upasanas on the devatas that are invoked in the karma. If it is done, Brahmalok is your prapti. Please listen to this carefully. If they are done lifelong, as is said, without a break, and if there is a break, then there are prashit karmas for it. So you do those prashit karmas because for whatever reason you broke the niyama, etc., which is a whole life. Say if your married stage of your life is 20, 30, 40 years, in those days they married young at a particular age, the minute they came back from Gurukulam, if they were to get, they got into Grahastha ashram, and the minute they've decided to settle down as a married couple, Immediately the karma life starts. And Grahastha ashram had the responsibility of sustaining the other three ashrams as well. So the Sharira Yatra karmas were also to be done. Vaidika karma was a compulsory addition if one chose a Vaidika life. In earlier times, yes, most people chose, but it is not necessary everybody chose. Most people chose. Now there is hardly anybody who would choose it. The point is, if someone did all that, then you got Brahmalok. What is the probability that someone would do all that? What is the probability? Not very high, because it is bound to be missing here and there. So, as per what you keep missing, there is a whole permutation and combination. Somebody asked me recently, I don't know if you're listening or not, how does karma work? Does it come by saying 6 plus 4, 6 good karmas, 4 minus karmas, negative karmas? So will the negative karmas, positive karmas, will it work like that? That you have done 6, you will get the benefits of 6, and 4, you will get the benefits of 4, or will the positive neutralize the negative and you will get the benefit of 2, or things like that? Something like this in the permutation. Does karma work like that? The law with which it computes itself, it um, accounts for its fruition, is not a visible compound, is not something that is mathematical computation, is not something that a human intellect can conceive, because karma, and now make this, register it, karma, when Vedas have spoken of, are taking into account this indweller's karma previous janmas onwards. Wherever, however. Karmas are computing in totality, in complete performance of this karma that has been done by this jiva. This computation that happens is not a visible computation. The result becomes visible when it comes. But the law with which it computes, just as how does gravity compute itself, we may have figured it out mathematically, but you are not seeing the computation. And this, because it involves Janma Janmantar, it's not possible to compute at all. So he said, since most people are not going to be able to do it throughout, there are other lokas, other pulls that come, patients are there. He said in the third mantra that those who will not do those karmas, and this is a very relevant question sometimes asked by many of us, to many of us, now we don't do these karmas. And the mantra says that if it was designated karma for you and you have an omission for it for long, like we all have now, we don't do these karmas, what happens? The result, it says, is a saptamamsa tasya lokan hinasti. Third mantra. Up to the 7 lokas, there is total destruction of the phala. Means the person doesn't get any benefit. Shankara says here is, if there is any benefit that comes, the word he used is trasa, grasa. The only thing that you get is klesha. Only thing that you have earned is tiredness. Only thing you have earned is difficulties, because you don't get the fall of these karmas if you've done them in a broken way, not complete, sometimes not by your will, part of the karma, etc. So whatever you may have done as a part of the karma also will also not have any effect, because along with all of those karmas is called karma. Along with all the karmas that was designated, that was called karma. And those who perform that karma as per is the niyam, and the niyam says daily. And if you are not doing it daily and you do it once in a year, like we all probably just nam paste for the sake of just etc., We do it sometimes, whatever convenience. It has no result at all. Saptalokaha, not only the Saptalokaha upwards, it says, Shankara gives another meaning to this lokaha also, because the first meaning we did before, which is this lokaha is considered as karma phala, what you get, earn out of karma phala. This is the karma phala which will give you the higher and higher lokas, etc. And once you have not done those karmas, automatically uh, you don't get any benefit, and whatever comes is only uh, klesha, is only difficulty. He gives another meaning of the lokas also is saptamamsa lokaha is, he says these are also your generations. So 7 generations, and he gives the meaning as you yourself, your father, your grandfather, great grandfather, son, grandson. This makes the 7. So if you do your karma, if anyone does their karma, as is said, the 7 generations, one meaning is these 7 generations, other meaning is 7 generations before and 7 generations later, they all get the benefit of the karma. All as in, there is uddhar for everyone. So even those previous ones. Now, since this portion is usually questioned by the modern intellect, who's rooted in verification of sensory knowledge, all this seems to be intangible, not possible. It's not rational, is the right word. So obviously, the Shraddha is not adequate, and there's no interest to do it, which is fair. The Upanishad is not saying you should do it. It is saying if you are Satyakamaha, if you are the one who has a desire for higher lokas, each phal that you do earns you this. And the next verse he is going to conclude to say, I'm introducing that verse now. He says that when that karma is done in a specific manner, as is said, by lighting the Agni is the one which is going to be the receiver, and Kali Karali cha Manojavacha Sulohita Yacha Sadhumbra Varnaha Sphulingini Vishwaruchi cha Devi Lelaya Mana Iti Sapta Jivvaha. 4th verse, 2nd section, 1st chapter of the Mundaka Upanishad, page 33 of the Gorakhpur Press book, Bhashyam, Shankar Bhashyam. He says these are the 5 tongues, Jivvaha, 7. Sapta Jivvaha, 7 tongues of fire. He said you have to do your karmas, and to do the karma, there is a proper ritual, proper methodology. You have to invoke the methodology, you have to process the methodology. And to process that methodology, when you light the fire, your fire should be very well lit and blazing. It should be, he gives 7 names. The Upanishad gives 7 kinds of flames which should be rising. It's like names. Because you are not supposed to be putting the ahuti, the oblations, into fires which are not well lit. It could be wet twigs, it could be a very mild fire, like nowadays you see on YouTube also somewhere they show to do a Agnihotra ritual is just this little bit kept on a Havan Kund, and it's hardly a fire there, flame there, but there is something being done. Now, it should be well lit. What is this well lit fire? Kali, Karali, Manojavacha. 3 kinds of names. Kali means a black flame. Black doesn't mean literally the black flame, because there's nothing called a black flame. But when there's a well lit fire, the bluish, dark bluish fire, and it has some sort of a blackish outline. Karali means it is something which is fierce, terrible. Means it is so ablaze that it makes you go back. When you see a lot of forest fires, Ajkal, you see this flame there. Kali Karali. Sometimes these two words are taken as one flame, sometimes they're taken as two different flames. It is this kind of course, I don't mean a forest fire kind of a flame. Definitely, the Shastra is not talking about that. In your Havan Kund, the fire must be that well lit. Another kind of a flame is Manojavacha. Manojava means the one which is very, uh, Java is very swift, swift like a mind, thought. How swift the thought moves, that's how swift the flames are. Lelia Mana, the last line, first word. Lelia Mana means it's dancing. This is how swiftly the flame is dancing. Sulohita, the reddish crimson colored flame, which is bright red. Sudhumbravarnaha, which is kind of a ash colored, but it's not like it has got smoke in it. Smoky, only smoky flame is not allowed, but the fire which has some smoke also, along with some smoke that you see. A well lit fire will always have some smoke, but the fire is much more seen than the smoke is seen. So Dhumra, Sphulingini is when there is a lot of sparkling kind of a fire, a lot of crackling fire, which you can hear also because there's small twigs, and then you see them like light bursts, that kind of a crackling fire. Vishwaruchi, the one which is multicolored and all over, means it is spread. It is taken the whole kund into. It's a well lit fire. In fact, those priests who are used to doing all this, they have joy when they see the particular kind of fire lit. They get an enjoyment out of it also. Vishwaruchi, Cha Devi. All these fires are called Devi. So each of them is Devi Kali, Devi Karali, Devi Manoja. Wow. All thrilling there for Devi. And each one of them is Lelaya Mana. They are as if dancing. These flames are dancing. Iti Sapta Jivvaha. So when the oblations are offered into such fires, as per the niyamas of the karma that has been spoken of, Nitya Naimittika karma, etc., then what happens is these Sapta Jivvas, the oblations, how is the fruit generated? What happens once the doer, the one who has initiated the karma, when he does that karma, then what as is? Now, in this context, I would mention for us, the word karta now becomes eligible. The jiva has become a karta of such a karma. When he performs this karma, he is the karta, he is the yajamana also, and the status he has taken on Atma is a karta. He is the doer of this karma for whatever it is. In the 5th verse, the Shastra says, Eteshu yascharate brajamaneshu yatha kalam. Eteshu means in these 7 fires, these kind of well-lit fires, in this flaming, brajamaneshu, in these shining, flaming 7 kinds of fires, all 7 may lit or any one of them, but it should be around these. Brajamaneshu, yaha charate yatha kalam, done at the proper time, as is ordained, as is prescribed. Yatha kalam yaha charate, the one who performs. In these fires, the one who performs his karma at a proper time. Not like how it has become, you will see a lot of our customs emerged from these karmas. Like one of the previous ones said, Atithi Deva Bhava, Vishwadevaha, you have to Anatithi Deva, when the karma is not done without Atithi Puja, etc. Now, in customs, you found that even about 10-15 years ago, people were not encouraged to inform before they came. People were welcomed as a surprise. Also, the home was kept open for anybody to come. It was a surprise. People could drop in, people could, and then the hosts would take that as an opportunity of Atithi Seva, because it was a part of their daily karma. Because initially they would pick people up from the streets, so a lot of sannyasas, so as the life kept changing, the customs kept changing. But now it is that Yatha Kalam has almost become, okay, we are working, therefore let's do it over the weekend, let's do it when there is a holiday, let's do this, let's postpone this, etc., etc. The Shastra says those who have done karma, which is to be done at the prescribed time. So if it is sunrise and sunset, then it means sunrise and sunset. It doesn't not mean I can do 2 hours later or I can do 5 hours later. It doesn't mean that I can just do karma and remove one clause from it. And the clause is an important clause. The clause is Yatha Kalam. So like Agnihotra, sunrise and sunset, and just before sunrise, it's just before sunset, etc. Then when those ahutis, cha ahutayaha, those ahutis that this yajaman, this karta is offering into these flames, he adadayantam nayanti etaha. These ahutis then, to such a person, to him, tam, they lead the person, they take the person along the Suryasya Rashmayaha, along the flames of the Surya Rashmi, along the flames of the Surya. Where do they take? Means the karma of this karta is carried on the flames through the ahuti. The ahuti is carried by the flames of the sun, where yatra devanam patihi ekaha adhivasaha, where devanam patihi, who is the lord of all devas, Indra, adhivasaha, where his rule is unrivaled, means only his rule is applicable there. The mantra is saying, summarizing it, whoever performs the karma as is prescribed, then what happens? The mantra says, such a person is taken. Is taken through that ahuti is taking the karma phal, and that karma phal will take the karta because it's a karma phal earned. That's the earning. That karma phal will be taken to the Indralok, Swargalok, in other words, in different Swargalok. So what is the benefit of lifelong karma? I did start the sentence and I think I left it in between. Modern times, therefore, what happens when nobody is doing it? As per the mantra, that is why we see a lot of lineages, family lineages are getting disrupted. But this is it. Vedas have said, if you follow it, you get this karma, you get this phal. If you don't follow it, there is going and coming. Punaravrittihi, samsara. You go to some place and you come back. Even after doing these karmas, you'll go to those lokas and you'll be back again. This cycle. which in Katha Upanishad he mentioned so well for those who remember or can revise and go back to it also. The branches of the tree, and in that branches of the tree, different places, different jivas doing uha, 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 poha, 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 like the birds making sounds. Those lokas, different lokas, this jiva goes to according to the karma done here. I'm going to repeat myself because I think that is a part of my quote unquote duty to highlight this understanding as much as possible, that what is bhuloka was karmaloka, is meant to be karmaloka. This is the place where a human being gets the chance, full freedom, full will to perform karmas, to do karmas, because karmas take the jiva, take the phal to different, according to the phal, takes the jiva to those experiences of that. Yes, later on, this same Veda tells human beings in the form of Vedanta that after a few lokas journeys, sometimes you go on doing these karmas, go to those lokas, you stay there for some time, for many swargam, you enjoy all that. You're going to be a resident there. You won't be Indra yourself because you've not done that karma. If you do that karma, is where the Purana story talks or something like that. Don't worry about. That's not the topic. The topic here is, if you do all those karmas, first, let me just finish the next verse also. There's just a few more because it's all in one connection. When this jiva is being carried on the flames, it's also called the solar path. We saw that in Katha Upanishad also. The Surya Marg, the Uttarayan and the Dakshinayan. When it's carried through the Surya Marg to the solar rays, through the solar rays, then what happens? He says, Ehi ehi iti tam ahutayaha suvarchasaha suryasya rashmibhihi yajamanam vahanti. So the yajamanam who is being carried on the Surya Rashmi, it's a visualization, you'll have to take it as is. That's the way it is mentioned here. As the yajaman is carried through the solar thing, by the sides of the flames, it's almost like a mark, and by the two sides you have lots of these the punya phal sounds, that ehi ehi, welcome, 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 welcome. It's cheerful, it's joyful, it's welcoming. It's a very welcoming by a lot of ehi ehi iti, like we saw in the Katha Upanishad, where sansara was described and the jivas are going clanking with each other. Here it says, when this jivatma is being carried to one of the higher lokas, all through the marg he is welcomed by the very ahuti that he made, has earned this, that he is welcomed throughout. He's kept very warm and welcomed throughout and taken to the loka where he has earned for himself. And how he says, priyam vacham abhivadanti archayantyaha. He's even worshipped there, archayantaha. As he is taken along, it seems he goes from one place to another place, rests there. It's a whole visualization spoken of. And then from that loka to another loka, he always has two escorts, but there are many such singers welcoming. It's a very pleasant atmosphere and welcoming atmosphere, very pleasing experience. And priyam vacham abhivadanti, constantly spoken well of the yajamana who's done good karmas in Bhuloka. Vacham vadanti, and what are they saying? that they are actually reminding, they are actually verifying probably. Eshaha vaha punyaha sukrutoho brahmaloke. You have earned this brahmalok. Here brahmalok in the context of the aparavidya means swargalok only. Shankara says it does not mean the last word in 35th page bhashyam of this verse. He says brahmalokaha is equal to swargaha prakarnat. According to the prakarnam, that is the context that is talked about, this brahmalok is to be taken as swargalok. So he's constantly told eshaha punyaha sukrutaha, your own good karma, it is your own punya which has brought you to this swarga, which has brought you, this is your earning, your stay here has come from your own good karma, punya karma. And now again, punya karma, papa karma, these are only karma phala mentioned in the context of the karma that the Vedas are talking about. So they are just encouraging this Yajaman to say that this is your karma, this is your punya phal that you have earned, and through this solar marg is taken to higher and higher lokas. And this is when it is done as ordained, as the Vedas have said. So the first mantra started by saying, if you're a Satyakamaha, means you want to be freed of the struggle of human coming and going, and you don't, it's janma, 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 maran, janma, maran, janma, maran, janma, maran. How much can you imagine? Lot more than that, probably. You can't, that is why how many lakh janmas is said before you get even a human birth. It's just to highlight the repetition of the cycle. We get involved in this lifetime, we get involved as human beings within this and day-to-day life and day-to-day servings and hopes, and we struggle with this life. Vedas is talking about the indweller whose life is not limited to only this life. This indweller is constantly getting an opportunity in this life for as high as Brahmalok, here in the context Swargalok, Indralok, up to that point, and in between there are other lokas, lesser and lesser. So as faulty your action would be, so out of so many people, hundreds and thousands, or hardly one person gets to Brahmalok, Swargalok, means you everybody will have that lesser heaven. There are a lot of lesser heavens in between, like Pitralok is also one of those heavens, etc. There'll be much and much more comfort, shorter a stay, etc. All this you can understand yourself also. It's exactly like saying, in spite of so many mumukshus coming to Vedanta, what is the probability of one getting enlightened? In the same way, Vedic knowledge, it gives the possibility, but it leaves it to your Purusharth. It leaves it to the Jiva's Purusharth, having shown all the marg. If you follow the Vedic Karma marg, these are the lokas. If you choose not to follow the Vedas, this is the marg. What is the marg? Samsara Punaragama. Keep coming back, different names and forms. Doesn't, if you don't mind it, that's fine. That's your choice. That is what now everybody is in. If you give up these karmas, again and again, higher and lower, higher and whichever, according to, you can have adhogati, you can have higher gati, etc. if you do not do anything. But the Shastra is now going to very slowly shift the gear. The section will now shift the gear. That what was the purpose of all these loka prapti, gyan and loka prapti, upasana? It's a hard life. It's a tough life. That is why everybody gives it up. Vedic marg is not an easy marg at all. But the karma phal is also not easily attainable that it promises. Therefore, since it's not such a easy marg, But for whatever reason, Satyakamaha, if somebody cannot see more than this and just wants it, it is a difficult thing to abide in. But as much as he abides in it, so much the possibility is of more punya, etc. And he says, going to that loka and coming back, you know, can be possible that he retains. These are all, I have no clue which would be that shastra where it says, but it is all just said in explanations. Sometimes hard to accept and believe, but then it is an explanation, you know. Again, to us, whether we accept it or not, but that's the explanation. That the jiva, once he has done karmas, he gets the choice to immediately come back and continue his life here, go to Brahmalok, exhaust his punya, or keep a part of his punya for the no, it's like a bank balance. Your karma is like your bank balance. You want to exhaust it now, you want to save it, you want to keep it, etc., etc. So, what the idea of the Vedas was, and what it does say happens is that constantly visiting lokas, even if it seems to be a very long period of time, the impression, the experience is yours. So the minute you lose that and you come back to a life of struggle and work all over again, it's like you go up the mountain, then over there something slips and you come back, and then you go up the mountain, then slip, come back. Very slowly you get a disinterest, you develop a disinterest for loka prapti. I'm not certain how many of you are getting it in the spirit that I'm talking. I'm not sure. But that's the best that can happen. Whatever you're taking would be right for you, probably. That is the Lokantara Prapti, because this Mundaka Upanishad is later on going to say that a person who has traveled so much in these lokas has suddenly developed a complete vairagyam for travel. Is no longer interested, is just not interested in any such performance of karma which will take them to any loka at all. And that vairagyam has triggered a certain kind of a sthira viveka buddhi of having seen the temporary nature of karma phal, and is beginning to now seek what is the permanent. And in that light, these are the three margs I said. One marg would be the solar marg, which takes you. One would be the Dumbra marg, he says over here, which is the lunar marg to lesser heavens. One will be the no marg at all, means samsara is the marg, come and go, come and go. Such a person who's traveled through all this constantly, lokantara prapti, has managed to get, but at some point develops a complete disinterest. And that vairagyam that he gets, then he begins to appreciate the permanence that a jiva is seeking. And that brings him to Vedanta, Shastra, part of Vedas itself, which he had heard as a part of karma and done ucharan of it, done parayanam of it. All the Upanishads he must have done parayanam of. But absence of vairagyam did not crystallize the meaning, because the mind was still seeking the fruit. But the minute there was vairagyam, the crystallization of the meaning of Atman and Brahman, and what is Lokantara Prapti, what is Phala Prapti, what is Swargam, and how it is also ephemeral, suddenly comes home to such a person, and the buddhi becomes unwavering, becomes a mumukshu. And such a mumukshu pursues the Vedantic Shastra, seeking in the proper manner again, and will take whatever it takes its time. But only because there is no longer a seeking of Lokantara Prapti on Maranam does the whole Prakarnam of Jivan Mukti establish itself. Such a one who has a Vairagyam, such a one who comes to Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, such a one who's now steadfast in the disciplines of Jnana Yoga, such a one who has no charm left for karma and phal, is only interested and abides in the disciplines abides in disciplines, not just jnanam and then it's without dharma, it's without disciplines. It's not that knowledge. Because only the one who will have vairagyam for karma phalam will find himself, the mind has Shamadhi Shataka Sampattihi. Such a one, when he seeks the Vedanta Shastra through a proper guru, does the Shravanam and does the Mananam, because now he is a Viveki, he will helplessly do Mananam. He has no choice but to do Mananam. Such a one, what is that fourth mark? Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, it is no mark. Atma Lok is also one of the lokas. The Anand of Atma Lok he gets, which is freedom from any mark, which is actually no mark, because it is you yourself and you discovered it. You discovered yourself. And that is ending the entire Srishti Prakaranam and your movement there. And that is in the light of which the whole avidya and adhyasa and everything that Vedanta says comes into picture. Why Atma is akarta, and why, as long as there is a kartritvam, there is a travel, and therefore you will see the whole line fits into place like a jigsaw puzzle. It just beautifully falls into place. Why Sarva Karma Sannyas? Why does he take? You will understand what is a Purva Mimamsaka. Why does he want Jnana Karma Samuchaya? What is Upasana? What is its phal? Etc. etc. The whole Shastra forms into place, and the culmination is this lifetime, this Janma also is possible to have moksha, and thus you become a Jivan Mukta. This is the way these verses I'll chant maybe next time. At this point, we will end the class. Oh, I'm already overshot quite a lot. But the idea is that, such as I've always said, every Upanishad gives something which only that Upanishad highlights. And if you're able to pick that up, then you have a lot of knowledge which falls into place, which becomes understandable, tangible. This Upanishad's glory is in showing the different phala of Paravidya and Aparavidya. That is what it shows. So I think we have justified it fair enough. It, I know, may need a little bit of re-hearing, but then you can come back to this and hear it again. Because this whole realm of karma mark, along with upasana, entire karma kan, unless and until you have a satyatva buddhi even for it in the beginning, why it is satyam and it is not false. Falsity of it is only established when you are ready to be a mumukshu, when you are ready to pursue the disciplines of Gyan Marg. With this, I'll just end the class. Om Sarvesham Swastir Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhave. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anupaji. Yes, and I am done. I don't know if we'll have a class next week. Quite unlikely that we'll have a class next week at this rate. But I'll send the mails if we don't have a class. Otherwise, we'll try and have it. I think there's a lot to reflect in this particular portion. There is a lot to digest and grasp. My personal preference would be you can write your question. Uh, I think that would be Divya. That D must be Divya. I don't know. I'm guessing. Yes, yes, Shalini, it is. It is. And I'm glad I didn't take last week because it needed this kind of bringing it together. So, yes, you can write your question. If it's something I can take now, I will. Otherwise, we can take it up next time. But the whole idea is, I really, I would think it's a great, at this point, Punyam, to be able to get this whole, at least I know for myself, Jivan Mukta becomes relevant. No? The low, it is the whole process in which Vedas talks about is not theory, is not imagination. It is experience of the individuals that they will go through. And it's a choice that is given to human beings. How would you want to choose? What would you want to choose? How would you want to carve your own life experiences? Because it is not ending with this life. Your life doesn't end with this life. If you don't aspire freedom, absolute, you are in a cycle. You are in an existential cycle. You have no choice over it. You have karmas to support your existential reshaping, reforming, re-emerging, re-manifesting, re-arriving. And it can be kalpa after kalpa. It's a very fascinating, the more you think about it, the more it's fascinating. And what is most fascinating is, I'm presuming you're writing, Divya, so I'm just extending it, that you're writing your question. And it is most fascinating to understand. If you get the sense of, yes, if you get the sense of Jiva Yatra is not imagined by the Vedic Shastra. Jiva Yatra, whatever Veda talks about, has the sense of validity, and validity is a very important word. You can't dismiss one part and say the other part is real. It's a very important. Gravity is valid. Do we understand the word valid? When we say gravity is valid, Veda is valid. And it's the only knowledge that is actually hitkari. No other knowledge is beneficial to the being. All other knowledges will help Sharir Yatra. Definitely make something nice in this life. We are all enjoying the benefits of Sharir Yatra Marg. Yeah, there is a range, yes, between sunrise. I'm presuming you mean the range of the sunrise itself and not the location. Like, say, America has a different sunrise time, and this has. There is a two kinds of a pathantaram, I believe, which says one is exactly at just before the sun rises, and one is as the sun rises. So that's why the sunrise and sunset time in the Vedic Kal is so important, because of karma. In fact, everything will fit into place. And I think we are too far ahead now to have given it up to ever think that we are returning it back to it. That's not the idea, and that certainly is not the idea in Vedanta. I want to clarify it again and again. But the more we understand this, the more we understand Vedanta also, because a lot of Vedanta is floats in the society, floats in life, floats in the world, just as a part of intellectual information. And people are not understanding what it means to say that there is, how does Veda address moksha? When a karma is done with Nishkam Bhav for the digestion of knowledge, will that also impact inefficiency, effectiveness? This part comes as a part of Nitya Karma. In fact, Nitya Karma was always meant to be Nishkam. That will not make it ineffective. Nishkam will make it effective because Nishkam Karma will give you Chitta Shuddhi. Otherwise, there were Sakam Karmas which were actually different karmas. So, all these karmas that we are talking of, regular done, they were all meant to be Nishkam Karmas only. They were not meant for Sakam. Sakama are specific karma, like Putra Kameshti, then what is that, Reina Kameshti? So there are specific karmas for wishing for Sakamata also. They can be done additionally for whatever desires you want. This Nishkama karma, because it's an accumulative phalam, when done Nishkama, there is a whole lot of different realm of punya. Chitta Shuddhi is your major gain, but you earn certain amount of punya along with it because you're doing other karmas like laukik. If you do parayanam, it has some sort of a benefit. So some punya gets generated. That punya can be encashed for sakamata. So you can use, sometimes a jiva needs some respite, some help from somewhere. So he then prays to whatever God, and he just actually, a lot of us would say sometimes, we just ask and we get it. And we have never understood how it has worked, because if people like us who don't even work for our living, and yet things fall into place most often than not. There will be some struggles, but most often, and then you wonder, how did that happen? So that kind of just tells you that some punya gets encashed, exhausted in the process of fulfilling some sakamata. Is that okay? And that is why in all these nitya karmas, see how easy it becomes to do nishkam when there is already a deity to whom you are performing an action. So if your attention shifts from yourself, the doer, to the deity, you've already made it nishkam. Okay. Great, then thank you everyone. We are really overstretched today. Sometimes I'm wondering, maybe just twice a month this class should be good enough. But I will try my best to have it every week because I want to try and finish this as early as possible without compromising on the quality. But we'll see how it goes. Thank you everyone. Namaste. Absorb.